For 50 long years, Hollywood had one image of Robert Duvall: calm, disciplined, and utterly respected. But at 94, he shattered that silence with a bombshell that left everyone reeling. He dropped the names of 6 actors he called his enemies, and believe me, they were no strangers. We're talking about his idol, his own brother, even his mentor. And the most jaw-dropping part? Every single one of them was a Hollywood titan. You have to stick around to the end, because when you hear these names, you won't believe who's on his blacklist. Number 1. Al Pacino, and the story of how a brotherhood devolved into all-out war. You'd be hard-pressed to find a Hollywood friendship that burned hotter than Duvall and Al Pacino's during the 1970s. They were crammed into a tiny apartment in Beverly Glen, splitting the rent, surviving on canned noodles, and sharing colossal dreams. They were brothers, but by the time The Godfather Part 3 was gearing up, that brotherhood had soured into a cold, bitter hostility. And when Paramount sent over the contracts, the numbers were a complete insult. For Pacino, a staggering $5 million plus 5% of the profits. For Duvall, a flat $1 million. The message was brutally clear. One man was the star, the other was disposable. Duvall calmly folded the papers, got up, and walked out. Hours later, a single, scathing fax landed on Francis Ford Coppola's desk. "I won't return just to be someone's backdrop." That one sentence torched 2 decades of friendship. After that, Duvall retreated to his farm in Virginia, searching for roles with soul, while Pacino became the face of Hollywood ambition and explosive chaos. The bond between them had been completely shattered. When the studio tried to play mediator, Duvall wouldn't even take the call, and Pacino flat-out refused to lower his salary. "You can't preach family on screen and forget it off screen," Duvall chillingly told a reporter years down the line. The sequel was released without him, and the critics immediately felt the massive hole he left behind. The Godfather lost its moral compass, the Chicago Tribune wrote. They never spoke again. At the 2011 Oscars reunion, the 2 men stood just a few feet apart, their faces blank, their eyes locked on anything and everything but each other. Number 2. Francis Ford Coppola, the teacher who became a ghost. In Francis Ford Coppola, Robert Duvall didn't just lose a friend, he lost the very man who had sculpted his entire vision of what cinema could be. It all began like a dream in 1971 when Coppola pointed at Duvall during casting and announced, "He's the Tom Hagen I've been looking for." That one line changed Duvall's entire life. But years later, that same man would absolutely humiliate him in a boardroom with a contract that felt like the ultimate betrayal. On the hellish set of Apocalypse Now, from 1976 to 1979, the first deep cracks began to show. Duvall literally collapsed from dehydration during the napalm scene, the brutal heat leaving his lips cracked and bleeding. Coppola just looked down at him and coldly ordered, "Do it again, the light isn't right." Duvall, ever the professional, obeyed, threw up blood, and somehow finished the scene. The film won the Palme d'Or, but Duvall's reverence for his teacher was dead and buried. He started to see Coppola as just another Brando, a monster of talent, but unbelievably cruel. A decade later, The Godfather Part 3 destroyed what little was left. The studio offered Duvall that same insulting $1 million, a pittance compared to Pacino's pay. Duvall refused, making a powerful public statement. "I won't act in a film about family if that family doesn't respect each other." Coppola desperately tried to apologize, even sending handwritten letters begging for forgiveness, but Duvall met him with a wall of ice-cold silence. They never met again. What started as pure admiration had curdled into quiet, burning contempt. Number 3. Marlon Brando, the idol who became the absolute enemy. When Robert Duvall first met Marlon Brando on The Godfather, set in 1971, he honestly believed he was meeting a god. He had studied On the Waterfront and A Streetcar Named Desire until he knew every single breath, every pause. Then Brando finally arrived, a full 2 hours late, a cigarette dangling from his lips, hiding behind sunglasses, with 3 assistants trailing him like he was royalty. And just like that, the illusion was shattered. Brando wouldn't even rehearse, demanding cue cards be slapped on walls, even on the backs of his fellow actors. He'd just change his lines on a whim, throwing everyone completely off their game. For Duvall, a man who lived by discipline and precision, it was like watching a train wreck being called a masterpiece. He was the soul of the film, Duvall later admitted, and the absolute enemy of every actor stuck inside it. So when Paramount secretly slipped Brando an extra $50,000 bonus, Duvall was so disgusted he just stormed right out of the press room. And then came the 1973 Oscars. In a move that shocked the world, Brando sent an activist to reject his Best Actor trophy, live on national television. While half the country cheered, Duvall saw nothing but a total betrayal. He turned our work into a political stunt. He vented to a friend, absolutely convinced Brando cared more about making a scene than about the actual art. From that day forward, any admiration he had just soured into pure contempt. So in 2004, when Brando passed away, Duvall flat-out refused to go to the funeral, sending Coppola a stark white card with just 3 chilling words, "Let it end." For him, the man who once showed him the meaning of art now represented every single thing he loathed about Hollywood. Which brings us to number 4, Stanley Kubrick, the supposed genius that Duvall branded an enemy of actors. Oh, Robert Duvall didn't just dislike Stanley Kubrick, he utterly despised everything the man stood for. At a 2010 Hollywood Reporter roundtable, Duvall dropped a bombshell that left the entire panel speechless, saying, "To me, the great Stanley Kubrick was an actor's enemy. I can point to movies he's done. The absolute worst performances I've ever seen in my life." You could hear a pin drop. Ryan Gosling's eyebrows shot up. Jeff Bridges let out a nervous laugh, but Duvall wasn't joking. He meant every last word. This wasn't some personal grudge. For him, it was a battle of artistic souls. Duvall saw Kubrick's insane method forcing actors through 70, 80, even 100 takes as nothing more than pure cruelty masked as perfectionism. How in the world can he tell the difference between the first take and the 70th? Duvall would ask. To him, Kubrick didn't direct actors, he completely sucked the life out of them. And that conviction became rock solid after Duvall saw the BBC documentary, The Making of The Shining. He watched in horror as Shelley Duvall was forced to swing a baseball bat 127 times, while Kubrick just coldly yelled, "Do it again." It was nothing short of torture on film. He later confessed that Kubrick once asked him to discuss a role in the Aryan Papers, but the meeting itself left him ice cold. Kubrick went on for a full 30 minutes about lighting and camera movements, but not once did he mention a single human emotion. "The air in that room," Duvall said, "was colder than a morgue." Duvall later told a reporter. So when critics started calling Kubrick a visionary, Duvall absolutely refused to sing his praises. He was a genius, he admitted in Esquire, but a genius without a heart. That one sentence basically made him an outcast in Hollywood. Number 5. Robert De Niro. A Cold War fought between two clashing acting styles. Robert Duvall never screamed at Robert De Niro. They never had a blow-up on camera, but oh, the resentment was deep, real, and it lasted for decades. Behind every polite handshake at an awards show, there was a simmering hostility. Duvall once summed it all up with a single, razor-sharp remark. "He's good at playing Italians. Very good." Now, that might sound like a compliment, but it was anything but. That line was Duvall's brutal way of saying that De Niro, despite all his fame, had turned acting into a complete circus of transformations, all costumes, accents, and shocking weight changes that, to Duvall, were just hiding an empty center. Their whole rivalry kicked off after The Godfather Part 2, when both men became the titans of serious acting. But Duvall was convinced De Niro's method had gone completely off the rails. While De Niro was shaving his head for Taxi Driver and packing on 60 pounds for Raging Bull, Duvall was quietly crafting his characters from silence and pure restraint. "The real work isn't in the weight gain," he once declared. "It's in the silence." That quote became his thinly veiled jab at De Niro's over-the-top style. Hollywood absolutely adored De Niro's transformations. Duvall just saw pure vanity. To him, De Niro was just proof that obsession was trying to pass itself off as real depth. He'd tell colleagues that actors who blindly worshiped the method were just one step away from becoming total parodies of themselves. And then, years down the line, when De Niro started popping up in comedies like Meet the Parents and Analyze This, Duvall supposedly just viciously muttered, "See, the mask is finally cracking." But De Niro, always the cool customer, absolutely refused to take the bait. "Bob's a serious actor," he once said, "playing it totally cool, we just have different energies." Yeah, right, that was the story for the cameras. Behind closed doors, these two legends avoided each other like the plague for decades. Number 6. Bruce Beresford, and the Oscar that left an unbelievably deep scar. Can you believe Robert Duvall won his one and only Oscar working with Bruce Beresford, and has despised the man with a passion ever since? The movie was the legendary Tender Mercies from 1983, a heartbreaking drama about a completely washed-up country singer. What should have been the absolute pinnacle of his career spiraled into one of the most bitter, soul-crushing experiences of his entire life during that brutal shoot in Texas. Beresford demanded endless, agonizing retakes, trying to fix Duvall's rhythm, but the actor just snapped, firing back that a real drunk never speaks slowly. But when the director flat-out refused to budge, Duvall pulled off an incredible act of rebellion. He secretly filmed one of the most pivotal scenes, the church performance at the crack of dawn, without a soul knowing. And get this, that stolen take became the raw, emotional heart of the entire film. When Tender Mercies went on to win 2 Academy Awards, including Best Actor for Duvall himself, he strode up to that stage, gave a deep bow to the screenwriter, and made sure to thank the crew, but then he deliberately, and with ice in his veins, completely skipped over the director's name. The entire hall fell into a dead, shocked silence. The very next morning, The Hollywood Reporter blasted the headline for everyone to see. Duvall ignores Beresford at the Oscars. Beresford, completely scorched, told the Sydney Morning Herald, "I respect him, but we can never work together again." And Duvall, he never, ever apologized. He later went on inside the actor's studio and declared, Sometimes you have to choose loyalty to the character or loyalty to someone else. It was a line in the sand. The two of them never reconciled. Duvall then went on to write and direct the masterpiece, The Apostle, proving to the world he didn't need anyone ever again telling him how to feel on screen. Beresford just quietly continued his career, but you better believe that every single time Tender Mercies was mentioned, the critics all remembered that one thing, the deafening silence.